Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, I will be starting off with the first topic of the chapter, a theoretical overview of artificial neural networks. The first topic is man versus machine, biological and artificial neurons. So these are the various topics that will be covered in this video. We will be starting off by looking at some basic definitions of neurons, neural networks, artificial neurons, and artificial neural networks. Then we will see the biological inspiration to ANN. We will then see the McCulloch-Pitts neuron or the artificial neuron. Then we will see some basic Boolean functions using the McCulloch-Pitts neuron. And lastly, we will look into some limitations of the McCulloch-Pitts neuron. So, let us start with some basic definitions of neurons, neural networks, artificial neurons, and artificial neural networks. So, the neuron is the fundamental unit of the brain and nervous system. Neural networks, they are networks of neurons, for example, as found in the real human brain. Artificial neuron, they are crude approximations of the neurons found in brains. They may be physical devices or they may be purely mathematical constructs. Artificial neural networks, they are networks of artificial neurons and hence constitute crude approximations to parts of real brains. They may be physical devices or simulated on conventional computers. So let us now look at the biological inspiration to artificial neural networks. So the human nervous system can be broken down into three stages, and those stages are represented in this block diagram. So you have a stimulus that is coming in to the first stage, that is the receptors. The receptors collect information from the environment, example, say photons on the retina. And then that goes on to the neural network of the brain, and that the neural network passes the output to effectors. Effectors generate interactions with the environment. Example, they activate some muscles. So they generate some sort of response. So our primary concern in this module is this particular stage over here, that is the neural network or the brain. So actually this is what is doing all the main processing and decision making. So that is our primary concern. Let us consider a biological neuron to begin with. The point of this cell is to take in some input in the form of electrical signals in our brains, then do some processing, and then produce some output, which is also an electrical signal. One very important thing to note is that the inputs and outputs are binary, that is 0 or 1. An individual neuron accepts inputs usually from other neurons through the dendrites. These are the dendrites. Although the image here doesn't depict it, the dendrites are connected to other neurons through a gap that is called as synapse. And that synapse assigns a weight to a particular input. Then all of these inputs are considered together when they are processed in the cell body or soma. So neurons exhibit an all or nothing kind of behavior. In other words, that means if the combination of inputs exceeds a certain threshold, then an output signal is produced. Or you can say that the neuron fires. If the combination of inputs falls short of the threshold, or if the combination of inputs does not exceed the threshold, then the neuron doesn't produce any output. That means that the neuron doesn't fire. In the case where the neuron does fire, the output travels along the axon to the axon terminals. Now these axon terminals are connected to the dendrites of other neurons through the synapse. So they take some binary inputs through the dendrites, but not all inputs are treated the same since each input will have some sort of weight, or you can say importance. We combine these weighted signals, and if they surpass a certain threshold, then the neuron will fire, and if they don't, then the neuron will not fire. And then this single output will travel along the axon terminals to other neurons. So these are the parts of the biological neuron that we just saw right now. So in order to just sum up, cell body or soma, the body of the neuron cell contains the nucleus and carries out biochemical transformations necessary to the life of neurons. Dendrites. Each neuron has fine hair-like tubular structures or extensions around it. They branch out into a tree around the cell body. They accept incoming signals. Axon. It is a long, thin, tubular structure that works like a transmission line. Then we have synapse. So neurons are connected to one another in a complex spatial arrangement. When axon reaches its final destination, it branches again. So at the end of the axon, there are highly complex and specialized structures called synapses. So the connection between two neurons takes place at these synapses. So now let us finally come into the artificial neuron, the most basic artificial neuron model which was given by McCulloch, that is a McCulloch-Pitts neuron. So the first computational model of a neuron was proposed by Warren McCulloch, who was a neuroscientist, and Walter Pitts, who was a logician, in 1943. So it is divided into two parts. The first part, that is G, takes an input. Okay, you can consider this to be analogous to the dendrites of the biological neuron. So G takes an input, performs some sort of aggregation, and based on the aggregated value, the second part, that is F, makes some decision. So suppose, let's say I want to predict predict my own decision whether to watch a movie or not. So the inputs are all Boolean, that is 0 or 1. And my output variable is also Boolean. So suppose if it's 0, then I won't watch it. If it's 1, I will watch it, something like that. So maybe the inputs can be, if x1 can be, is it a comedy movie? So suppose I like movies which are, of the comedy genre. So that could be one input. And then x2 could be whether it's a regional movie. I don't like regional movies, suppose. So that could be another input. And x3 could be, is not at home. Meaning I can't watch movies on the TV if I'm not at home. So that can be another input. And x4 can be if my favorite actor is a part of the movie. So yeah, all of these inputs basically will affect the decision that I make ultimately whether to watch the movie or not. And all these inputs can be either excitatory or they can be inhibitory. Inhibitory inputs are those that have maximum effect on the decision making irrespective of the other inputs. For example, x3 I told is not at home, right? That means if I'm not at home, no matter what, like even if it's a comedy movie or if it's not regional or even if my favorite actor is in the movie, I can't watch the movie on TV if I'm not at home. So that's an inhibitory input. That means if x3 is 1, that means if I'm not at home, then my output will always be 0. The neuron will never fire. So x3 is an inhibitory input. Excitatory inputs are not the ones that will make the neuron fire on their own, but they might fire it when they are combined together. So formally this is what is going on. We can see that g of x is just doing a sum of the inputs. Summation I is equal to 1 to n xi. That is a simple aggregation. And over here we see something called theta. So this theta here is called the thresholding parameter. For example, if I always watch the movie when the sum turns out to be say 2 or more, then theta will be 2. So that's called the thresholding logic. So G will be the summation of inputs, and then when f is a kind of a decision making function, So y, that is the output, is equal to f of g of x. Y is equal to f of g of x. And that will be equal to 1 only if the summation, all the inputs, if it's greater than equal to some threshold. And it will be 0 if it doesn't pass the threshold, or if it's lesser than the thresholding parameter. Now let us look at some basic Boolean functions that can be implemented using the Macaulay-Pitts neuron. So far we have seen how the Macaulay-Pitts neuron works. So now let's look at how this very neuron can be used to represent a few Boolean functions. Mind you that our inputs are all Boolean and the output is also Boolean. So essentially, the neuron is just trying to learn a Boolean function. A lot of Boolean decision problems can be cast into this based on appropriate input variables, like say whether to continue reading some book or watch a movie after reading the book, etc. All those sort of decisions can be represented by the Macaulay-Pitts neuron. So this is a concise representation of the Macaulay-Pitts neuron. This representation just denotes that for the Boolean inputs x1, x2 and x3, if g of x, that is the sum of the inputs, is greater than or equal to this theta, that is the thresholding parameter or threshold, the neuron will fire. That means y is equal to 1, otherwise it won't fire, that is y is equal to 0. So let us start with the first Boolean function, or function. So an OR function neuron would fire if any of the inputs is on. So even if one input is on, the OR function neuron will fire. We know that from the OR truth table, OR gate truth table. So for 0, 0, the output is 0, and for 0, 1, 1, 0 and 1, 1, the output will be 1. So meaning even if one input is 1, the output will be 1. So that is what we are trying to represent using the Macaulay-Pitts neuron. So I just told you that even if one input is 1, the output will be 1. So meaning the basic threshold that it needs to cross is 1. So even if one input is 0 and the other input is 1, that is all that is needed in order for the neuron to fire. So x1 plus x2 is equal to 1 or greater than equal to 1. In case both are 1, then you will get 2. So if it's greater than or equal to 1, the neuron will fire. So x1 plus x2, that is the summation, I is equal to 1 to 2 xi, greater than equal to 1 means that y will be equal to 1. If it is less than 1, y will be equal to 0. So the inputs are obviously Boolean, so only 4 combinations are possible. We have 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0 and 1, 1. So if you plot them on a 2D graph and if you make use of the OR function's aggregation equation, that is nothing but this x1 plus x2 greater than equal to 1, we can draw something called a decision line or decision boundary as shown in this graph. So mind you, again, this is not a real number graph. We just use the aggregation function x1 plus x2 is equal to 1 instead of greater than, just put equal to 1 to plot the line, to graphically show that all those inputs whose output pass through the OR function MP neuron lie on or above the line. So meaning, if all inputs, whatever inputs lie on this line or above this line will result in the neuron to fire. Whatever lies below this line means that the output will be 0, or that means that the neuron won't fire. That is the meaning. So the Macaulay-Pitts neuron just learnt a linear decision boundary. So the MP neuron is splitting the input set into 2 classes, that is positive and negative. Positive ones, which means that they output 1. So those are all those that lie on or above the decision boundary, and negative ones, which output 0, are those that lie below the decision boundary. So let us convince ourselves that the MP unit is doing the same for all the Boolean functions by looking at some more examples. So now let us look at the AND function. So now this AND function neuron would only fire when all the inputs are on. Even if one input is 0, the neuron will not fire, meaning all of the inputs that you give to the neuron have to be equal to 1. So over here we are considering the 2 input AND function neuron. So both of these have to be equal to 1. That means the threshold itself is 2. How many ever inputs you have, the threshold will be equal to that much. So x1 plus x2 has to be greater than or equal to 2 in order for y to be equal to 1. And if it is less than 2, y will be equal to 0. So in this case, the decision boundary equation is x1 plus x2 equals 2. So all the input points that lie on or above, we have only one point, that is 1, 1, will result in output 1 when passed through the AND function McCulloch-Pitts neuron. And all the other points that lie below this decision line or decision boundary will result in the output being 0. So this decision boundary works. So let us now look at a function with an inhibitory input. x1 and not of x2. So x2 is an inhibitory input over here. Basically that means whenever x2 is 1, the output will be 0. Or when it's 0, output will be 1. So keeping that in mind, we know that x1 and not of x2 will be 1 only when x1 is 1 and x2 is 0. How is that? I mean, it's pretty simple. It's quite, yeah. So this is quite obvious. When x1 is 1, if you want the threshold to be, I'll come to the threshold later. So basically output will be 1 only when both of them have to be 1. So in that, for both of these terms to be 1, we need not of x2 to be 1. If not of x2 is 1, that means x2 is 0. So only when x1 is 1 and x2 is 0, you will get the output as 1. But when x1 is 1 and x2 is 0, you add the 1 plus 0 is 1. So that will be the thresholding parameter. So x1 plus x2 is equal to 1. If it crosses, if it's greater than or equal to 1, then y will be equal to 1. And if it's less than 1, y will be equal to 0. Coming to the NOR function. For a NOR neuron to fire, we want all the inputs to be 0. So the thresholding parameter should also be 0. And we take all the inputs as inhibitory inputs. NOT function. For a NOT neuron, 1 should output 0 and 0 should output 1. So we'll simply take the we'll take the input to be an inhibitory input and set the thresholding parameter to 0. Now we look at the OR function with 3 inputs. In this case, the possible inputs are 8 points. So these are all the possible inputs. We have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1. So we can map these on a 3D graph, and this time we draw a decision boundary in 3 dimensions. So what will that be? It will be a plane. Instead of a line, this time we'll have a plane. So the plane that satisfies the decision boundary equation, x1 plus x2 plus x3 is equal to 1, is shown over here. Okay, so this is the plane that satisfies this equation. So take your time and convince yourself by looking at this graph that all the points that lie on or above the plane will result in output 1 when passed through the OR function MP unit, and all the points that lie below the plane or in the negative half space will result in output 0. So actually over here only the point 0, 0, 0 is lying below this plane, and we know that that will result in output being 0, and all these other points are either on the plane or they are above the plane, and they'll result in the output being 1. So this works. Just by hand coding a thresholding parameter, MP neuron is able to conveniently represent the Boolean functions which are linearly separable. Linear separability is something very important that we should consider when we're talking about the McCulloch-Pitts neuron. Basically, there exists a line or plane such that all the inputs which produce a 1 lie on one side of the line or plane, and all the inputs which produce a 0 will lie on the other side of the line or plane. So after looking at linear separability, let us now chalk down the limitations of the MP neuron. The 2 main limitations are, what about functions which are not linearly separable? Say the XOR function. And the other one is, are all the inputs equal? What if we want to assign more importance to some inputs? I hope it is now clear why we're not using the Macaulay-Pitts neuron today after looking at the limitations. Overcoming the limitations of the Macaulay-Pitts neuron, Frank Rosenblatt, an American psychologist, proposed the classical perceptron model, the mighty artificial neuron, in 1958. It is a more generalized computational model than the Macaulay-Pitts neuron, where weights and thresholds can be learned over time. So, we will look at perceptrons in the next video. I hope to see you there. Until then, have fun with machine learning. Thank you for watching.